testing the audio again here. Is she outside still? Where? Okay. Well, we don't want the audio to come through. Looks like it's working. Hey, Lynn, can you unmute if you can hear me?
Getting better.
So John, I don't know if you can hear it again, but it just keeps logging
Every time what?
over and over.
Maybe when the sound goes out? Is that why the sound's coming?
You guys want to just use the way? What did he say? He knows what's going on.
Why don't we just record it and take off the mic so that we can continue the meeting? That's what I would do.
Yeah, I just want to make sure if he thinks he can fix it, then it's one thing. Is that what you're telling you?
It's horrible.
I don't get too fancy. Okay, sounds good. All right, I'm pulling the mics off.
Turn them physically off.
Well, it's unplugged, so if it is where, I mean, yeah, I would carry it with you for the rest of the day, just in case, but yeah. Pass my hands. Right. All right, I think it should be good on the normal
We had a plan.
system. We'll just have to talk loud in this way at this mic. Oh, okay, that's It's only one spot. Right. Okay, I think this should be working now. It won't be as clear for everyone else, so I guess just kind of talk in this general direction. Well, we were going to start with a quick discussion before we go to the department reports about the Harbor Heights situation. Just to let Betsy get out of here. And then Mark suggested we do public comment as well, so that we don't have to make everyone sit for the whole thing, and then we'll carry on. So just to get started, Betsy, look, if you want to chime in if I'm being too vague or misspeaking, but Betsy and I met after their board meeting. There are some capital improvements they need to do. In the past, the village has basically, my understanding is they declined to assist with funding. I don't know that anyone has a great understanding of how the organization is set up, whether or not there's no lease between the Harbor Heights Housing Authority and the village, but the village owns the property. We also appoint their board. I would guess that ultimately we are responsible for that if they come up insufficient.
They're housing, they're an authority, right? A public
So,
authority.
I think it's something we may need to spend some time researching, possibly having Jim Burrows look into it and just clarifying what the responsibility of the village is in relation to maintaining that property in good order. And even if it isn't ultimately required, we may want to do it anyway, because I think it's, you know, our property in the village.
We talked about this before, I think, a couple meetings ago, about assigning a trustee to, for the shipyard apartments. In the years past, they've done the same thing with the old folks apartments too as well, so maybe it's worth mentioning.
So I think we were talking about Harbor Heights. Shipyard is privately owned. It's a private investment company. Harbor Heights is owned by a housing authority that is managed by a board that the village appoints. The village board appoints their board, and they have their own finances. They are their own 501c3. But I think we should have Jim Burrows do a little digging to see exactly how it's nested under the village, because housing authorities typically report to the state housing authority. It's a bit complicated, and I want to make sure I understand before we start thinking about spending money, what our responsibility is and what our options are.
I've got a couple of inquiries out to our rural development rep, so I should hear back from who our rural development rep is, and that person will be very helpful, because rural development, of course, is under USDA, and that's where the program is funded from. Secondly, the New York State's, I forget exactly what the full name of the department is, but they have a rep, and so I reached out to find out, and so before maybe we spend money, we'll get the government's point of view, both federal and state, on that, and have them, report back to us as to how it's structured, right? So
Have we ever subsidized it before?
Not to our knowledge,
No.
no.
No,
But
that's the problem. We
yeah.
were part of the Second Harbor Village,
right.
and they've never helped us to take, in the past.
I've always thought that was a problem back when I first was on the board. It's an authority. If you look at any authority, if you look at the dormitory authority, look at any of the authorities that you guys deal with, the BCA authorities are part of local, in this case, part of local government. We have just not done a lot, not relied on it, they have not had to rely so much on us, but now there are needs because,
Let me ask this question, any capital project that was required in the past, how do you guys take care of that?
in the past, okay, the property is about 50 years old right now.
Yeah.
And any interior renovations are done within what we bring in from rents. We have a replacement fund for things like that. But now the building itself is getting old. So there's things that need to happen. The drainage, I don't know if you were around here a couple of years ago. We had a big snowstorm and then it turned really warm and we had this influx of water that went into 14 apartments, about 3 inches of water for each apartment. So it was a major process that we had to undertake. We had to take the tenants and put them in the hotel because of course they didn't have renters insurance. So that came out of the funding that we currently have. So now we don't have the funding. And we have the water mains that are a problem, the drainage, which is the biggest piece, paving, it's old, it's
Okay.
50 years old, and the sidewalks, same thing.
Okay, I understand. I get it now. Thank you.
Yeah, and there's definitely, I think, there's ways, the estimates they got were from Albertine, right?
Yes.
And they weren't factoring in that I know, not that he's got anything else to do, but that, we could potentially use our DPW or even the towns to offset some of those costs for paving. There's other ways to make that number smaller, but I don't think we can get creative enough to get it below what they have in a capital reserve. So it's gonna be a question of how we do that, and it may be something that your board can take on a bond or so I'm not sure, but I wanted to bring it to your attention early so that we have time to kind of think through our options and make sure that we're not coming up and needing to spend money urgently again, like last time, and then eating more budget than it would have taken to fix the problem in advance.
We own the property.
Yes.
We own the buildings as well. Okay.
They own the property, the
Okay.
buildings are on the financial statements of the authority.
Yeah, but there is no lease or any sort of record we could find stipulating.
Property, but we don't have any authority over the buildings.
But
and
it's
how they
not-
Run it.
We even if we give it to them, yeah.
housing. It's our housing.
all of their board members are appointed by
Yeah.
the village
Do
board.
they not, I've been on the board for 2 years. Do they report to us? Do they tell us month to month?
It
I
could,
haven't seen a
yeah.
report.
It's up to us, and I think we've just over a period of years and years, we've been remiss.
Betsy, how long have you been-
Not just.
7 years.
7 years.
Excuse me, 9 years.
9 years, yeah. So, and have you ever,
Never-
I've reached out,
yes,
but in the past, nobody wanted to, they all pretended that they didn't have any need to deal with
We
it.
definitely
Sure.
gotta marry this board up with that board at some point.
yeah,
Also, rural development has a series of grants, but one of the resources they don't have is a grant writer, right? So that's another perfect place where we need to step up.
Yeah.
I know we, of course, are stretched thin on grant writing too, but it's still, but that underscored our point that we've made several board meetings. We may really need to consider someone on a more full-time basis.
yeah. And I spoke with Corey, and I forget if we were all on the call or just, but I spoke with these guys and just to say, let your grant person know
So
to keep,
take a look at it, see
yeah.
what available grants. I
'Cause-
think in the past, you did go after a grant, right? Through,
We tried, Snowbelt was our property manager at the time, and they put in a grant, but we were denied.
Yeah.
They said basically we had the wrong type that we were applying.
yeah, I mean, I think the answer, it sounds like is pretty easy. We don't need to do anything. If Mark's got some feelers out, hopefully we'll get some information back and then we can take that. Good.
I'm sorry. Do you think it would behoove us to still reach out to our attorney to kind of, figure out what is our responsibility?
They may
and
answer the questions
is
we
there
have
a
for free.
contract?
So
We
I,
may just, let's find out what we can get from other governments and from our people at the state and federal level first, and that, I'm not gonna wait on that info, we'll get it right out to you. So, in between board meetings. we can-
it may answer enough questions that we don't have to spend a lot of time with Jim. It may not, but
And can I just make the point that things under our capital project assessment right now, they're property, it's not buildings.
yeah,
Right.
So it's really what the village owns.
sure.
We're talking drainage, water mains, paving and sidewalks.
So that's our responsibility regardless.
But it's $375,000 that
Yep.
we did not budget for,
Right.
and we're just now being, like, we can't just come up with that.
Well, I think that's right. I'm not necessarily hearing that we have to come up with that right away. We now have to research it. It may take a year,
Right.
but
So-
we need to start. that.
Yeah, and there's like, one example is that was a cost to replace all of the water mains. And it may be sufficient just to dig and put individual shutoffs on. They have one big shutoff for the whole building. We don't need to replace the entire thing. If potentially we can just install shutoffs on the individuals, that may be a lot cheaper.
Looking at it from, yes, I think that.
So like, there's a few questions here of like, to what extent is it our responsibility to backstop this, and what can we do legally to fund it? And then what can we do to get the cost down? And obviously, how urgent are these, and can we stretch it out over a few years so that it's not such a big lift? So there's, hopefully we'll get some answers from.
And by the way, we're not unique. There's a lot of other villages have public housing. And so we'll be reaching out to other villages who may be more active with their authority.
Can I say something? So I'm also on the housing board with Betsy, Kay Baldwin. And so one of the things that I think everybody should be aware of is that the property is managed by helpers, United Helpers. And we have United Helpers because the previous company decided to, to part ways. And this is common in this industry. The nonprofit or the profit side of these companies like United Helpers take on this business. But if it's untenable, if they really can't afford to make a little bit of money, they can't afford to pay their employees, then they will serve notice that they no longer are interested in managing that property. Which leaves us in a situation of having to find another property manager. And so being a really responsible village, being supportive to that company puts us in a situation where we don't have to worry about finding another management company soon. The Village of Adams has just been notified by United Helpers that they'll no longer continue to manage their property. So and the reason is they're looking at these huge deficits. We have these capital improvements or not even capital improvements, these maintenance items, and there's no funding. And they don't have the resources like we don't to go out and find the funding. So it's the more proactive we are, the more likely they'll want to continue to work with us, and the less surprises. We could get into a serious crunch if they just gave us notice next year we won't be your management company.
When
So I
does
don't
their,
know if there's another one available.
when does their contract renew?
It just automatically rolls over. We did have Snowbelt, for a number of years. They're out of Loudville. And what happened was they found that it was too difficult to get people to be coming all the time from Loudville, especially during the winter time.
I think with a name like Snowbelt, they would have.
Yeah, yeah.
Right. But now we have a company that's in Bourbonnais, right?
Ogdensburg. Yeah.
Closer.
Yeah,
And they do complain that it's difficult to get here
Yeah.
when there's certain urgent issues. They
Sure.
can't get their maintenance folks over here. So it's really an issue that not to have a nearby management. So we want to be the model client. We want to
Sure.
be the village that everybody wants to work with.
And part of the problem is, excuse me.
Well, that's it. That's
But
right.
they want to, they're trying to hire local people, but they can't get local people that want to stay. They'll stay for a couple months and then they quit. So it's like a circular problem.
Okay. All right, well, I think we have good next steps. Just send out, when you get an answer, kick it
Send
out
it
to the
right out.
board, and if you want to send it to their board as well,
Yeah.
we can
Absolutely.
get everybody on it.
Who are the members? Remind me. I know.
The board members,
Yeah, besides you two.
okay, Cease Perkins,
Yes, that's right.
Brenda Scordo is
Brenda's-
both the treasurer and the secretary.
Right.
Christine Eggleston,
Yep.
Marcia Gaffney, and Judy Fiorentino.
Yes.
Did I say Christine Eggleston?
Yeah, you did. You did. Okay. Yeah,
There's seven of
exactly.
us.
And you guys meet monthly, bi-monthly, once every 6 months?
Once every six months, definitely once a year, but
Yeah.
usually unless something comes up that we
Okay.
need to get together.
When's your next meeting?
We just had it.
You just had it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, great. Any other questions for the Betsy or Dave? All right, thank you guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. We're gonna bump up public comment just to free some of you guys. We'll do that next and then we'll get into the department reports afterwards. I don't think we have anybody on Zoom anymore besides Lynn. So I guess it's anyone in the room have something?
Yes.
Connie?
Connie Barone, Saks Harbor Battle Kings, the historic site manager. This is a request to the village and actually the LBC to make use of the LBC's north parcel of Ambrose for a signature event, the North American War of 1812 Grand Tactical in 2024. This is the request. The North American War of 1812 Grand Tactical International Committee selected Sackets Harbor for their signature event, 27th, 28th of July, 2024. In 2010, the Grand Tactical drew about 7,000 attendees to interact with over 400 history specialists, authors, and historians. That event set the stage for the War of 1812 Bicentennial, 2012, 13, 14, where Sackets Harbor hosted 3-year summer commemorations, drawing also an international audience, including upper echelon diplomatic, political, civilian, and military dignitaries from the US, Canada, and Britain. The Grand Tactical International Planning Team is drawn to Sackets Harbor location because of the National Park Service rates the battlegrounds as one of the top 2 in the nation as a Class A Priority 1 principal site. This distinctive setting and the military action that happened there 210 years ago is recognized as hallowed ground by the military community. About 1,200 Americans and 900 Crown Forces combatants faced off in battle, with 70 fatalities and an estimated 300 wounded and missing in action on the battlefield, all in service to their countries. Unique to the space is the resting place of 42 Crown Forces dead in unmarked graves. The fact was not overlooked by the British in 2013, when Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II conferred a British Empire Medal on me for leading the effort to mark where British citizens rest on foreign soil. Since 2010, much has transpired to make Sackets Harbor venue singular in nature, including the outstanding acquisition by the American Battlefield Trust and subsequently New York State Parks of Horse Island and the logistically vital mainland property where the battle unfolded. The subsequent National Park Service Battlefield Protection Program funded archaeology study of the island employed a detailed historical and military terrain analysis. Results of the study are used today by the military for lessons learned. The 2024 committee seeks to bring together an international group of military and academics who study battle days in broad context. The planning team notes that since 2010, connections have evolved with 3 other nations whose ancestors fought at the 1813 battle. That is the Mississauga, the Mohawk, and the Oneida. Chief Carr of the Mississauga recently placed ceremonial tobacco on the Horse Island landing shore in recognition of her ancestor who fought at the battle. Given the key role the location played in the battle, the planning committee respectfully asks the Village of Sackets Harbor and the LDC board to allow the North American War of 1812 International Grand Tactical organizers permission to interweave the LDC's northern parcel into the upcoming international gathering and commemorative observance. A formal commit will be submitted. Thank you.
Thanks. All right, anybody else? Yeah,
Just following up on the housing conversation, I would suggest going to county planning and have good resources on residential community development programs, not just funding, but they would have, I think, some answers to your question.
thank you. All right, anybody else? Okay. We'll move on to department reports and start with Lynn.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
I'm gonna keep this short and sweet for you this evening. Like, you have my report, and just gonna ask you if anybody has any questions on it.
No, I think we're good. That software's installed.
It is.
Great.
We got it done. They finished it up today about 10 o'clock.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, thanks very much, Lynn. Anyone have questions for Lynn? All right,
Thank you.
Officer Gleason. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay, same, that's like my report I submitted on your drive there. Was there any questions on the report?
Busy month.
Yes, we had several events that went off without any issues that I'm aware of. Right. I do want to go for the record. I did get a ticket when I ran the marathon for speeding. He always told me to slow down, so I did.
That's why you didn't qualify.
Get done since 31 miles an hour.
Yeah.
I did.
Thank you.
But you get a professional courtesy warning.
That's right. Yeah. But you know what I also got? Also got a medal. We didn't get many thanks too for having the electric truck out front. That way the runners weren't inhaling any
That's right.
It's funny.
or in case you had a heart attack.
All right. Any other questions for John?
Thanks, Jack.
Thank you. All right. Kelly, you doing the fire today?
I'll do it at my report.
Okay.
Your financial grade.
Sounds good. Let's flip over here. Drew, up next, Heritage Area.
Okay, yeah, I've got a couple, several things. One, New York Forward grant, we just don't have the projects to submit a grant this year. I got some ideas, maybe going in direction next year, but
Okay.
I just don't have the projects. EV charging station, there is a grant program out now. The first step, and I submitted like a brochure, I put it in with my report. I don't know if you had it. But anyway, the first step is for the village to select a contractor. And the contractor actually leads the village through the whole process. And there's I didn't give you the list, but there's a list of approved, yes. There's a list of approved contractors that for this program. So if you would permit, I suggest that we go through the procurement process to submit or to select a contractor. So I'll work with Shannon, we'll get his RFP out there. And
Then do they help select the site based like,
yeah, they would
Okay.
help us.
so they get
start
involved right at
the
the beginning?
site. Yeah, they.
Okay.
they-
Great.
The people that I've talked to stress, really, this is, well, it's the absolute first step we gotta take. And they help us through the whole grant process because they're familiar with it. So I'll work off the list and we'll go through the procurement process and then the board will select the contractor. Board will do that's,
This is the missing program that we were looking for.
yes,
Okay.
yes. Yes,
Two
and
free
that-
charging stations, right?
Pardon me?
2 free charging stations at a minimum.
Well, and that's it's up to the board how many. I suggest we may go for 4 or 6 charging stations. The funding is, we're most likely to get funding. We won't get 100% funding. We're not a disadvantaged community. Right. But I think we're in good shot to get 80%. So the program runs through 2025. But this, like I said, we've got to get started. So, but I would recommend that we may choose for 6 charging stations. Okay, and potentially 80% anyway, so if the board gives go ahead, we'll start the procurement process.
Yes.
Some proposals.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote. There's no cost.
No,
on it.
it's
So
just-
yeah,
yeah,
that sounds great.
Right.
Anybody have any questions or comments or objections?
Okay, Pickering Beach Museum, it's pretty much closed for the season now, but I am working with, there's an outfit in the maintenance principal lives here in Sackets to do a virtual tour of the museum, which we've wanted to do for a long time. And they've done this for other museums. So I think it'd be a good opportunity. We talked about this literally for 30 years, obviously. the technology is 8 years ahead of what it was 30 years ago, so be a good chance to open up the museum to people who cannot physically see the whole museum because it's not ADA accessible.
Even in the winter too.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
yeah, so if, once again, I'll proceed with that, I just report to the board as it goes on. Banners, yeah,
Can we go back to real quick, Pickering Beach? Couple things I think I may have asked, painting and.
yeah, we're getting quotes for the painting and we've been trying to do that. Lynn has one, I think, but we're trying to get quotes for the painting.
Okay, good.
And I'll come with quotes for a computer. We need a new computer also, so I'll come with quotes next board meeting.
Okay,
The
great.
money's in the budget, just a matter of process.
Thank you.
Yeah. Banners, talked about it at the village marketing committee, where this program came out of, and with, I talked to Shannon and Eric on it, and the consensus that we should continue the Hometown Heroes program. I just did a short little sort of summary of, so we start retiring, starting with the original first year, and basically we'd offer the sponsors, they could pay again to have their banner up there, or if they wanted to just to retire, then they would be off the banner. And we would solicit for new banners. We've already got, I think, 7 or 8 requests. So, and we would just kind of roll along until
I
eventually.
like the idea of retiring them, so that gives more opportunity for more people to be able to
And-
be on there. Like,
Yeah, they wear out after a few years too. So
Yeah, yeah.
I like
people can take them and put them in their house or.
Right,
you know.
right.
Or replace your picture, but you look super young.
After you run a marathon. or something.
Yeah, right, with a medal around your neck.
Yeah.
Well, that's the picture going up there.
One thing I brought up last time we talked about these, I think it might make sense to increase the cost a little bit. I know we're trying to do break even and
No, well, I think that, doesn't that include an increase to 175?
it does. I don't know what the cost was, because I know last year we'd said to keep it at exactly cost and then we ended up having to
Well, no, we
have
can't-
3 others,
It was the rec-
right?
Yeah,
So, I think especially if we have a lot of demand, just if we can make sure that we're not running super lean so that if anything needs to be replaced, we're not in the red. I don't know if there's still 150 and these are now 25.
well, the
but-
cost, I think this last time. I want to say was about 120 for the each banner itself. You remember?
I think the total cost last year was 150.
No, the cost of the sponsor, but I think the actual cost of the banner was shipping and everything. So we did make a little bit.
Yeah, I just, because it'll get eaten up somewhere where I know we had to replace one or take one down or something
Yeah,
like
we've
that.
never recouped the cost of the brand. I think the very first year, not of these banners, but of the original banners. I think we charged the sponsor for the cost of the bracket, but since then, we haven't charged them.
What shape are the brackets?
I think the brackets, we bought, the last couple of years,
You
we
say
bought,
last year we bought a big chunk of them.
yeah, we bought, I think,
Like 40.
20 some more
Yes,
brackets.
yes,
So I
okay,
think
covered.
I think the brackets themselves are in
Okay.
pretty good shape.
Cool.
And we've got a lot of them.
So if you're at 150 and you're 25 over, I mean, so you keep trying to keep it affordable, but also you're not making money, of course, but we're paying for our DPW crews to be out there to put them up.
Yeah.
Right? That would be a good way to say that.
Also, I mean,
Sure, sure.
there's been a few that we had to replace and put up, and so there's always,
Yeah, but they did that in another bar.
oh, they did.
Yeah.
That's okay, great. That's nice.
That is true. We have to rent a lift when we put them up.
Right,
So
so
that
that's.
does cost
Well,
us
if-
money.
I mean,
And then when residents call and they want their moved because they didn't put it in the right spot and they have to get the lift again, that happened a couple of.
I mean, we've got time to work on this, so if you want, at the
Yeah.
next board meeting, I can get the actual cost. And
I don't mind the cost of the lift. I was just making.
Yeah,
sure that
no,
we know
Yeah,
that we-
it's basically like there are other costs, and that's why I was just suggesting if 175 is a decent buffer, that's fine, but even if you had to move it up to 200, I don't think
wanna
that's
make
too
it
high.
So that residents can afford it too. I
Yeah.
don't want it to be something that we
Well,
can't afford.
we'll get the cost and I'll talk with Shannon and Eric, and then, but if basically, if we can go ahead and continue with the program,
Yes.
then we'll work.
Sounds
out the
great.
cost.
I think,
A lot of communities are doing this now, and I still think ours are the best looking of
yes.
any I've seen.
They do, and I tell you, they hold up really, I mean, they're only up during the summer, it's not like, but they hold up really well.
I like them, I love it when they're out, I think
Yeah.
it just looks really good.
We actually had somebody walk in yesterday asking about the mic. Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
Last thing is on the Discovery Park, we started laying out the trail. Actually, this is along the swale, so it kind of cuts the property path back from the road. That Lynn actually mowed it just to kind of see. And we're working to try to get SUNY ESF involved, their master's program. The students get involved in how to plan it and get involved with the environmental study and that sort of thing, so.
Will you prioritize the dog park potential
Absolutely.
proposed area? For me?
Anything for America.
That's why I did it.
All right, anything else for Dave?
Just one question, Dave. I've been meaning to ask this for a while now. The post office, what is our responsibility there?
We don't own it.
We
There's
went
a-
through
Well,
this
that's,
last.
There's
that's why it's,
There's a guy that owns 27 of them. And he just leases them out. It's a really good return if you don't spend a lot on maintenance. So.
It's actually a national program. Lots of, there's a whole
half of-
program where people buy multiple post office privately from the government, because the government isn't gonna do anything from Washington. They're not gonna
Right.
send people, so they sell them and people, then.
okay, so there's a private entity out there that owns our post
Timothy
office.
Thomas. Yeah.
And they never live here, so you can't
And
let
it
it.
looks-
And it looks like,
Oh,
Yeah.
it's terrible.
So a couple things.
Yeah.
One, their postmaster does do the lawn maintenance.
Mhm.
But the building maintenance itself is done through him. Both, there are some locals who've been trying to
Yeah.
convince this guy to sell it to them because they want it to be nicer, but last time I called him, he was deep sea fishing on a giant yacht because he owns 28 of these things and he not
Yeah,
super interested in taking calls.
I would think that our DPW would do the same thing that we do with other people when they're not upkeeping their property. We can go in, give them a whatever it's called, and they can go mow
Yeah.
and bill them for it. We do it for other residents.
now, did he take the trees down a year ago? Was that?
I think we told him we were going to, and he said, okay, and then we did it. We just gave him as, the same thing with the bench, like I called him and I said, hey, do you care to put this bench there? And he said, no. So the issue is the things that we can have Lynn do is basically the lawn, and that's just a matter of the postmaster. Like when I've seen it get tall, I've just asked him, hey, can you take care of that? And he said, yeah, I'll get it tomorrow. But the building itself, Lynn's not gonna go and
Yeah,
like
no, I
pressure
know,
wash the
and then
moss
lawn
off the
maintenance.
Right, but it looks.
roof
I
and.
mean,
You're talking about Jim Corbin maybe citing.
that's what
That's what I
Kelly's.
was thinking,
Yeah.
that
I
if we
thought-
could use the zoning.
We may have asked him last year. It's been 12.
He said it
months.
really never gets, because what they do is if it gets above
Yeah, right.
however many inches, they have 10 days and they just, as soon as anyone here can go to the post office and say, hey, could you fix this? And they'll say
Yeah,
yes.
It's an embarrassment
Yeah.
when your post office looks like it does.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't realize that was the way.
Yeah, it's
it
totally
worked out.
privately owned.
We discussed it last year with our downtown project.
Yep.
Because we were hoping potentially that we could acquire it and then we could change, it doesn't have to be there, right? The post office could be in another convenient spot. That is a prime spot on West Main.
Right.
Where we could have another business, et cetera, right? But we were unsuccessful. The guy wasn't biting, so.
I didn't stop.
So we can't move the operation and just leave him with the building.
You could, but the leases that the post office signs are very long-term and they're not gonna
Yeah.
move unless he makes it their problem. And right now they're fine.
He
So
just signed
it's-
one. He just signed it, actually. I think that was the other.
Last year,
Yeah,
yeah.
he just signed it.
There's like a 5-year renewal or something like that. So, it's something I'm happy to call him again. I think he'll eventually sell it to somebody local, but we just have to keep pestering him and making sure that when he decides to sell it, we're top of
Do you know
mind.
what the price range would be?
The problem is, so he's like 80. So if he sells it now, he's got to pay capital gains tax. If he dies and gives it to his kids, they pay nothing. So you'd have to overpay by a ton, and that's why he's not trying to sell it. Wow. Yeah.
David,
All right.
So, I think that's.
Yeah, because we got her under the VC. You got your own bullet.
So we had a good month at Visitor Center. We had 947 visitors, which is about in line with what we did last year. Also notably, we've had more Canadians this year, which is great news that some borders are open, they're coming back. The only thing I really wanted to point out in my reports, which is that our visitor center video is done and we are now showing it. Yes, we actually had an eagle-eyed visitor spot a mistake and we quickly corrected it, but
How long is it?
it is almost exactly the same length.
Which
as it
was,
before.
remind me.
14 minutes and few seconds.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's under-
I'll come down and watch. That's
yeah,
good.
please, yeah. We're open on weekends now. You're all welcome. And then there's one thing that did not make it into my report. I apologize for forgetting it. At our last marketing meeting, we talked about the Eclipse digital marketing campaign that the TI Council is going to go ahead with. We're talking about trying to get in on that at the very lowest tier, which was the $2,500 tier. We have a budget of $3,000, and the committee thought that that was a good value for money. We'll end up appearing in ads that we would otherwise appear in. They're going to be targeting the capital region in Eastern New York, where we don't normally get any exposure through their digital campaigns. The regular one that they participate in, or we participate in, sorry. So the marketing committee agreed that that might be a good use of our $2,500 of our $3,000.
Cool.
So we'd like to go forward with that. I guess getting from the council to the next month. That's it. Unless anybody have any questions.
Patty, just like David, your reports are very thorough and detailed. I appreciate that.
All right, any other questions for Kathy? Thanks, Kathy. Next up is planning board, Janet.
I think I had the date for our next meeting wrong. Those in September, it's the 20th. Guess I was ahead of myself. And the only other thing I'd like to mention is at our meeting in August, there were two residential projects reviewed and approved in Madison Barracks. And one of many items of discussion is the infrastructure agreement, where not everything in that has been completed. And the planning board attorney advised me to tell the board to not grant final approval without the conveyance of roads, water, sewer. And so I asked, well, I think we'll say, well, that's what the bond is for. And the bond is for construction. The conveyance is a separate item. And things can go wrong from the time of completion. Either it's not completed correctly, or you don't have the correct as-built drawings. And I think you're familiar with that in property. And so that was the caution. And so the majority of the board, not unanimously, said, well, as long as the applicant understands there's a risk. And I felt that was kind of vague, like, well, what's an applicant understanding of risk? You know, that's almost meaningless, really. So I just am letting you know that is kind of a problem. I mean, the developer was there, you know, pass this, don't you dare hold this up, sort of thing. And the residential applicants, the buyers, wanted to move forward, yet for the protection of the community,
Right.
You know, so I'm not saying you should be doing things that you're not. I'm just saying that's a problem, and we have an application for next month, another residence. So it'll continue to occur until you have the correct as-built drawings and the attorneys reviewed everything. Lynn's reviewed, you know, the actual conveyance that the village owns the road, village owns the water, the sewer, the lights. Everything that was in that infrastructure agreement, which is, I know you've extended it, but so I just want you to be very aware that that's an ongoing issue.
Question for Janet, Corey, Mark, whoever, infrastructure agreement. It seems pretty simple. I'm a simple guy. There should be some kind of punch list that exists. You have to do these 75 things before we assign it. Once we check them off, you're good to go. Are we doing that? Does that
Well,
make
the
sense?
conveyance is like a formal, like legal conveyance of the property's ownership rights from the developer to us, which we can't do until BCA approves.
And that's what I'm saying. So there's a checklist of things that they have to do before.
But we just extended it because they asked for an extra 30 days if they needed more time.
I think we're
to
already
fix
past
it.
that as well.
That's what I was
Yeah.
just gonna ask, where do we stand on that? Because you're right, I don't know where we are.
I believe the original extension got us to the end of last month.
My understanding now is documents, including new as-built, are being finalized by their attorney, and then it goes to our attorney. So right now, and I've emailed our attorney to say it's an any day now kind of thing, so we're waiting, we're watching and we're waiting. So Mr. Gerson should have that. I'm hoping so.
Well, we need those things finished.
Yeah, so like one of the examples is the
There- oh,
light
by the way,
posts.
the paperwork is there at the attorney's office because physically they stated they completed everything.
Have to check
Now,
But it was, when I talked to
That's what I'm asking for.
our attorney the night of the meeting, he said, I have none
Yeah,
of this in front of me.
he does not have it.
Yeah.
because their
It's with their
attorney-
own attorney. So
Their
they've basically, they're
attorney prepared
internally
the
saying that
document.
they've finished, but their attorney has it, but that's,
Right.
We're saying maybe they haven't finished.
well,
We
it
don't
just
know,
doesn't,
but
there may be an issue that their attorney finds or that Gertson finds, that
Right.
takes more time. Another example is that the lights are not delivered yet. So they can't install them until they're delivered and we can't take possession of them until they exist.
See that everything's done.
I heard that he was.
There's still a few construction issues out there.
Yeah. There was a curb change, there's,
It's at.
Did you hold a secret list that what must be?
I won't say there's a secret list. There's been some emails of things that still remain to be done in the past. It's one that came up this past week. In front of the apartments where the bicentennial trail crosses there. Their original plans had shown an ADA compliant walkway there. And so they're gonna actually work on it this week to make that compliant. We were able to remove some of the stuff. And then there's a few ponding issues where the roadway, before we're gonna take it over, that they still need to address. So yes, there's definitely some construction
I was
things.
gonna say that, I know Lynn spoke to me about the ponding issues because it was collecting water where they would be, he was thinking of plowing season.
Yeah.
If it's collecting water,
ice.
what's it gonna do when it's winter? It's either gonna be huge chunks of ice or something
Yeah.
that it needed to be leveled out better, so I didn't know.
Well, their bond was renewed for another year. So the bond was renewed like last month, so, and it's a yearly
They have
bond. So
that.
there's 11 months left of that bond. So we have the ability, if we got down to the end of the last 2 months, we could put pressure on them and say, hey, we're gonna call this bond and do the work ourselves if we have to. They're almost certainly not gonna let that happen because it would be terrible for their business and a much more expensive solution. But to Janet's point, they could finish the construction and then we could just be tied up in legal review.
Right.
We're not able to pull the bond because the construction's done good enough. And then that just can languish for a while.
I don't know what that means to banks lending money to people that are building $500,000-$600,000 homes,
But it is something that you guys brought up in front of the homeowners and said,
It's
Yeah.
their
Know
risk.
what they're agreeing to, they just
Oh,
wonder.
right, and that was our attorney's caution, it's like,
Right.
you may have 3 or 4 homeowners that don't have access to a public road or don't have,
right,
and then just another thing, you mentioned the trail. In Mike Campbell's email, the village about this, because the buyers were bugging him. He says the trail is completed, I think Lynn should look at it and see, is it completed to the standards of
Yeah.
our trail? And then,
It's
right, well, then, I
It's
don't,
already said that. It's
I don't
not
think
to
so,
our
but
standard.
I'm not. And then, there were, for the, DEC permit, there was the agreement with state historic preservation for the review of the homes, but another part of the mitigation required was, at least 2 interpretive signs, and, the developer says, the signs are in the planning and design stage, will be installed in 30 to 45 days. Maybe I assumed, but I would think the village would wanna have a say in what
Sure.
those signs are, not.
did you give them anything yet or they're just
No, they
winging it?
haven't.
Okay,
I mean, what do they look like? How
Yeah,
big are
yeah.
they? Where are they gonna be?
What do
What's
they
the
say? Yeah.
information? you know, but that's, so I don't know where, you know, that's not my role in the planning board at this point.
Yeah.
It's gotta come
I feel
from,
like we're developing that land a little quicker than we should be. It sounds like.
well, that was the whole thing all along with the push from the.
I feel like we're not there yet. We don't have everything set before we should be allowing those to be.
Yeah, I mean, to my mind, if the homeowner knows, you know, you're in the phase where you're trying to design, you want to get an architect and start working on it, but they understand that like that may tie up financing.
Well, that's what the majority of the board felt. Oh, if the owner understands
Yeah.
that it's that their risk, but let's say 9 months from now, we're still in this situation, and that wouldn't be the first time we've had problems.
Yeah.
Why do we want to put ourselves in that boat?
Right.
You know,
Where I'm,
so.
I almost wonder if we should hold off approving anything more until
Well,
we figure out where we're at.
They're a separate board. It's like we can, you know,
We don't, all we have
to do is wait for the things.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know, the board in charge of the infrastructure agreement, let's make sure we don't lose track of every item and
Yeah.
that it is completed adequately as soon as we can, otherwise the planning board's kind of stuck in the middle with this.
The only other aspect I'll mention is like more just the easements for the infrastructure, of the village taking over the stormwater, water and sewer. I was never certain if that was actually truly conveyed in actual easements, you know, as when these properties sold in the deed. Not, they made a few adjustments this year with some of the lines, realigned things, and I said, okay, I'm okay with that, but you're gonna need a new easement. Now it's shifted.
Well, that was the thing, I didn't think the deep water, sewer, and stormwater easements were complete, and the developer said it is, and our attorney didn't know for sure if they were, and it's like, that's not the kind of thing you wanna have a fuzzy area.
Yeah.
And now we had 2 homes approved with the understanding it's their risk, like, oh.
Is there any reason we can't write to the developer, whether it's through Mike Campbell or to the developer directly and just say, let's see your punch list as of this date?
Sure.
Why don't we do that?
I mean, Mike sent some, the email I forwarded you guys had a list from Mike, but it wasn't comprehensive. It was just like
because it's
10.
The first I'm hearing of the sign.
Right.
so-
Right.
So,
And the date's already come and gone that we already extended that infrastructure.
I mean, somebody somewhere has got this
I
list.
don't wanna play devil, I'm gonna play devil's advocate just for a second, I'm certainly in support of what you're all saying, but. The infrastructure agreement is not that specific, right, so. We never said, the infrastructure agreement, which has been around for a long time, did not say that, oh, pending village approval on sign design. So here we are at the 11th hour and they're gonna say, here's our sign. Wait, now we're, you know, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be very, you know, pay a lot of attention to that. But every time we're approaching that goal line. You know, something we wanna make sure that the trail, for
Well,
example,
I guess the question.
it was never said to the spec of our existing trails. I wish it did.
Right.
I wish it did. So, I'm saying we gotta allow them to do it. You know, we have to allow them to do it. We have to help them, give them instruction, but.
Well, like with the sign, I don't think they're gonna, if Dave wants to message Mike Campbell and say, hey, can you send me what you guys have before you go to
Yeah,
print?
that's-
They're not gonna
that's-
argue with
right,
it, you know,
they won't.
that'll be fine.
Right, but this is
Adding
the first
with-
time that I'm hearing about that issue. Are
Yeah.
there other issues out there like the signs that we're not gonna hear about until next month? You know,
Or
it would be
until it's
nice to
late.
know
Sure.
what the complete package is going to include.
Have the developer come to a village.
Well, that's what I'm
board
saying.
meeting.
Why can't we have?
Yeah, I mean, we can also get Mike can write it up for us ahead of time. So we're not
Yeah.
sitting for 30 minutes and going through this. I think that's not a tough question to ask him. I can message him. Yeah.
Then we.
I mean, he was a little. Not a lot of detail in his response.
Yeah,
That's
but I
my
think
concern.
if we ask for what you're asking in the right way, I think we can get most of, if not all the information you guys
Mhm.
are understandably looking for. I think right now it's in a lot of different people's hands, right? There's like small changes that Lynn's agreed to with the curbing, and there's changes or things that are pending that BCA is working on, and not anyone really has all of them besides the developer
I
themselves.
was gonna say somebody.
So we'll
does.
ask them and get,
I mean, he's not making things up as he goes along.
No, for sure.
He's-
But yeah, they're not making that accessible to us, but we could ask, and that might help speed things along. And I think, you know, they want it moving as well.
Sure.
So,
Yeah.
Very much.
all right. Any other questions for Janet? All right. Move on to BCA.
All right, good evening, everyone. Phase one and phase two, while the rent came in at just under 300,000 for both phases. Should have both schedules. The Market Square Park east abutment stairs are installed. The west sidewalks around the bandstand are almost complete. They poured some today as well. East boat ramp dewatering is in progress. Floating docks started going in today. They'll continue, I think, through the end of the week. The bandstand roof is complete and the paver patio is complete in front of the bandstand. So back to kind of the NOAA funding, we should hopefully be hearing invitation for proposals by October 11th.
And so that's them replying to us saying, you've passed the first smallest hurdle and it's worth, okay.
Yes. As far as FEMA goes, still kind of working on the scope of work change and working with FEMA on the first disbursement request, which is almost $78,000. Phase two, the Harbor Master parking lot's complete, with the exception of some lighting issues or lighting poles, and I think believe the conduit and the wiring is ran. They're just waiting for delivery of poles to put up. I think Lynn is still waiting for delivery of the Cobra heads as well.
Yeah, they're supposed to be on the way.
Same with the third alarm parking lot. Hamilton Street sheet pile, the cap channels were installed yesterday or the day before, and Ontario Street outfall is complete. And Pickering Beach, the sub base is installed and ready for pavers within the next few weeks. And that's it for the phase one, phase two ready projects.
I had a question, but a comment. FYI for the board, I did come in a couple weeks ago with Corey and Brendan, and we talked about, as you guys recall, last month, there was an additional request from BCA to provide some more additional oversight because we broke the project into two phases. We spent a good 20 minutes identifying, why that happened. Now I understand. If you guys need me to explain it, we can take that offline. But we're also working with BCA to kind of pull back some of those costs. It was, I think, 110,000 total. 75,000 of that was cost for having somebody on site to oversee the phase two piece. Corey and I will get back together with Brendan, and we're going to come back after the construction season has concluded, and we're going to look at ways to maybe pull some of those additional costs back. Okay, I can't promise you I can get them all down to zero, but we said maybe we can get it closer to somewhere, City Village, $40,000-$50,000. Maybe, no promises. I'm not really. Did I sum it up pretty good?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
How much is that metal worth?
Wait, this one right here? I got that when I ran 26.2 miles. Not weekend, your race.
Yeah. The only thing I want to add, with the water intake, we're working on the water withdrawal permit. And with that, there's just a water conservation form you have to fill out. So we got all the data for 2022, how much the water plant produced, how much went to Hounsfield, how much was consumed within the village, and then metered sales. And the data is showing that the average production at water plant was about 289,000 gallons per day. And the consumption was about 233,000. So there's about a 50,000 gallons per day that's unaccounted for.
Is that based on the sum of all the meters?
That's all the meters.
Do
Now,
we meter our fire?
we do
hydrants?
not. So that can talk with Lynn as far as, was there any big fires and flushing? that can account for some of it, but not 50,000 gallons per day.
Oh, it's per day, yeah, okay.
But Lynn's gonna look at, he's always said there was some discrepancy as far as the meters at the water plant and then what Dave reads apparently, so there could be some there. But we're gonna submit the data to DC for that. Typically, they like people to be within under 10%. But in that water conservation form, it says, what are your goals for next year? And in there, I'm gonna say, we're gonna verify accuracy of meters, and then, after that, take a look at, maybe there's some leaks in the system we're not aware of.
We're closer to 25 then, right?
What's
You
that?
said it was 280,000 versus 230,
Yeah, 289,233, so yeah,
so we're
over
20-ish,
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
So just wanted to make mention of that, be looking into it.
I'm gonna use that as a segue. I was at a retirement party a couple weeks ago and, found out that our water withdrawal permit expired in 2015. So we've been 8 years without a permit.
Yes. Yep, I wasn't fully, I worked on that a little bit, so when we modified, the permit ran out, went to modify. Sent the letter in, and at that time, DC came back with a list of things they needed, and my understanding that current boards at that time, we didn't send anything back and kept on going through, and yes, the permit had expired. And then recently with this one that got brought back up, permits, we want to get that changed over. Because right now, without the permit, it was 500 gallons a minute. We're looking to bump it up to 600 gallons a minute, what we can do with the new intake. And so working to get that pushed. Actually, we have a conference call with DC Thursday to go over that. So yes, that permit had expired. One of the things in the past, the permits, you're not the only one. You would submit permit stuff, and then DC was short staffed and the staff, and they had one person, I think, in the youth office. So sometimes there was 2 or 3 years before you hear back at times. But we'll get it worked on this time and get that permit back in place.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything else, guys? Any questions for BCA? All right, we'll move over to Peggy.
Well, I was going to talk about the new upgrades with the system, but I don't just.
Look at the back of everyone's shoulders looks great.
At least they can see everybody though. The camera's there. That's a win.
It's a TV.
That's a win.
No, the camera should.
Oh,
be
sure.
Just us,
They could zoom it. I
Yeah.
bet they could.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or just put it on the ceiling. Doesn't have to be.
Anything else, Peg?
We're trying.
Get there.
I have something, we were talking last week because we had a visitor last week. Somebody found me on the window thinking it was a drive-through, just kidding, but he was getting metered water out here. And our metered water, you pay a dime, you get how much, 5 gallons, which is terrible.
Past school.
Right here, right by here, we have a meter, right? So, and I said, cheaper, that's awful low, right? Because that's really low for 5 gallons. So what can we do to, modify that? Well, we have to get a new sort of machine. And at first it might have been that it could be thousands of dollars, and that's, maybe that's something apparently.
It was priced out in approximately 2000.
That's, yeah, 14. So here it is 9 years later, and I think we did a little bit real for fun, and it's much lower, right? We can do that, and we can actually get a machine that takes cards or Venmo as well as,
Do we know what the usage is on that? Offhand, I know we have
Yeah,
like
well,
the total.
that was the other thing. So they don't, the DPW, when they have time, they take the money out, but we don't do it on a regular basis. So we therefore do not have a sort of timed, how much do we get every quarter? You gotta do
They
that.
do it every.
Well, they
like,
do the
resent
big
it.
one, but I think this one is not,
Yeah,
it's, I don't think it's that common. I mean, I see it maybe twice, 3 times a week.
Yeah.
Would you guess? Something
People
like
use
that?
a lot of feedback.
So my point,
It's crazy.
yeah, so my
Yeah.
point is we oughta do that on a regularly scheduled basis so we can have the data. Find out how much we're really getting out there, how much more we could get for our water, here.
You know what the rate is out at the top?
What's the rate on the water tower?
It's a quarter. But you get.
Still get a lot.
Still better than our rate though. Like our marginal rate for residents is like $1 for 1,000 gallons.
What I'm saying is, we're under, I mean, we're giving water away, frankly, at this point.
I know when I buy the 5 gallons, like the primo ones, it's $7.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
And sell it for a dime.
Don't tell it, huh?
Well, what do we charge per gallon? It's not, it's like 30 cents, 3 cents. What do we charge for 1,000 gallon for like ratepayers?
$3 for 1,000.
Right, so
Over the-
$3 per 1,000.
Well.
You're already paying it.
Not to just make
Yeah.
a long conversation out of it, I just think that it
Yeah.
might be time to look at an updated system back there and maybe raising, it could be a quarter back here, you're still getting a good deal, and you got a quarter versus a dime, that's 2.5 times more, right, so. Yeah, that was my point. And we should also close the drive through. Literally, somebody drove by the window, the window was open and they complained through their car window through into the village office about the.
They ordered fries with that?
Yeah, in order fries, right? Fries for $10, so we got our money.
Yeah.
They heard cheap
Just-
dime
just
bags,
wanted
they
to
thought
bring
something
that up.
else. All right,
Thank you.
anything else? Any questions for the office? All right. All right, on to community orgs. We've got, who's here to,
We have a community garden update that was printed in.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I didn't get that far yet.
All right.
No, it was in my mailbox and I was looking at the bill. Must be Ron, right?
Yeah.
Is it yours, Ron?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Hey, real quick, not on the agenda, but I'm not aware, where's Corbin, the zoning issue? I only say that because I know there's something going on in the corner of my street with the, high fence. So I'm looking for an update. So where's Corbin? Is he not part of the agenda or?
He usually doesn't come unless he has something.
Okay.
So if we were,
Yay. No, funny, for the pen, for the pen, the money. Yeah.
Okay. Yep, thank you.
all right, community orgs. Anybody here to speak on behalf of any? All right, I don't think we have anybody on Zoom still.
Can we just let the marathon people go ahead so they don't have to listen to us give all their, they've been waiting patiently.
Oh, I thought you guys,
At the end.
They're
Can we
marathon
vote?
people.
This is a 24-hour meeting.
You know, they've been.
You're
sitting
fine.
here, and I thought maybe
I
they
don't
can
care.
go before we do our report.
yeah, that we can do the events
Okay.
before. That's fine with me.
You're welcome.
I'm sorry, I don't know what you have.
I think over back there.
Okay.
Okay, no other community orgs, then we will take Kelly's suggestion and jump the events applications up. And is anyone here for Yuletide? Cool, then you guys, you're up. Sorry if you were planning on stretching out before.
Oh, no. I don't have any paperwork and then we'll just have like I did last time. Peggy has our event application and, as of now, the same map, the same board, ground. And then the one thing that we were just gonna ask about is if there was something in the works of perhaps getting the Sunday of Labor Day weekend for like multiple years in a row, so we don't. I mean, I don't know, how many these meetings. But if that's something that is.
So-
in the-
Typically in the past, we don't like. we do and we don't hold dates, right? Like if you were here today to say, oh, we want to run an event when we know Can-Am is happening, we would say, well, they're longstanding. The reason there was confusion with the other is 1812 never used to be on Labor Day. It was just a 1-year thing. I think generally speaking, I don't know if the rest of the board agrees, but if you guys intend on doing this regularly, we will certainly give you a heads up if somebody else tries to like put in an application 7.5 years out or something like that.
She hadn't provided us with like the next 7 dates, though. I would feel comfortable saying, give her those dates. And give her permission, provided she gives us the insurance and fills out the form, but we're gonna hold that date for her. I think you still need to fill out the form, but I would like to hold the date.
Sure.
I think it was so successful, I don't wanna mess it up.
Let me make a comment. I totally 150% agree. The only, and so I think we can come up with a way to do that. The hesitation is governmental in nature. This is an elected board.
Oh, that's true. We might
Right,
not
3
be
years
here
from
to talk
now,
about
no
that.
one could be here and they could say to the person coming in. So I wanna do it, and I think we could come up with an informal way, and then, we can do it, and like Alex said, we can
Can we
kinda.
pass a resolution that gives that weekend to Can-Am and list the dates? And then once we've done that, the next board has to, if we do.
Yeah, but I think like, that's I agree with Mark. It's a little overreach to be like forevermore. This is the
You know,
thing.
and she has specific dates she's given us.
Well,
like-
Sure, but I think, I don't know, I don't think a formal approval really does technically mean that much if it's a different board by the time it comes around. Anyway, there's nothing that says we can't undo things we've done. I mean, we just added and changed laws all the time. So, I mean, certainly like to that end, it might be fine to just do it and say, yeah, if a future board decides they hate running, they can do whatever. But we can't stop that. We can't stop that from happening regardless. So, why don't we do this rather than, why don't we
Let's
approve this one
24.
and we'll
right?
discuss how we're gonna do like long running events. Cause right now it's been generally just informal, right? Most of them are not, they're at the barracks, right? They're not village approved, or, the one that is and has been going forever is village run. So obviously we're not gonna give away the weekend of the event that the village runs.
I mean, there's other runs that happen annually, but they don't have the same weekend. I'm just thinking of like the Garrett run. That
Right.
runs every year, but it's not on the same weekend every year. Where this one, and I think what adds to their application is the fact that it's a Boston qualifier, and therefore it's approved for a Boston qualifier within those dates. And that's why.
Also,
I
the
feel
map
like
is fixed.
You make a valid point. Now, what's the requirement? From
Yeah.
your end, you have to tell them we are locked in officially for a year?
Per day, no, so the appeal for runners to come and register is.
They plan it every.
certain 2-week timeframe, sometimes
Gotcha.
10 to 12 days, whatever. So that's why we were pushing to try to get it on this, like the third.
Yeah, absolutely,
So
right.
in order for a Boston runner to qualify for the Boston Marathon, they have to run that weekend in order to make the qualification.
Right,
So I feel like using that to say that's what would make it.
Yeah, I mean,
How we could say, okay, for the next, how many years is the race certified for?
10 total. so
10
nine.
total. 9 more
Oh,
years.
10 years, okay.
Yeah, so it's a 10-year certification.
I agree. There's no harm in just giving you a stamp for the next 5 years. You have this weekend for your race. If a new board comes on and we all get fired because we do a terrible job, which is potentially likely. So that's okay. Let them go with it.
Yeah, I think it's a good faith effort.
I think so.
And if somebody wants to do it,
That's on
Yeah,
them. I kind of
then
feel
I
like,
can't believe somebody would.
I can't either.
No, I-
So,
totally
well, what do we
agree.
want
I
to do
would
for
suggest-
the rest of it, though? We would need to, I do think,
Say, for the next, she has the date, September 1st, 24, September 7th, 25. I think we
Well,
take
it's
the
Labor Day
next.
weekend, 100% every Labor Day weekend.
Let's do it
regardless
for
of-
the full.
why don't we,
I say let's do it, but I still think we need insurance every year. I think you still need to fill out the application,
Oh,
but I
yeah.
would like them to be able to say. Because it's also now a marketing perk where she could say, okay, it's Labor Day weekend, and she knows she doesn't have to worry about it. She doesn't have
Yeah.
to come to us. We've already approved it. And that kind of helps with their recruiting and marketing efforts too, to say I'm locked in for.
Well,
Labor Day.
it also helps with the local
businesses, which
So,
also, yeah.
hold on,
they could-
what's the deal right now with this application? Are we missing anything for the 2024? It's all done? And when does this, like, you don't have a certificate of insurance for next year yet? Right, so when do we want to, we just need to put a deadline on that.
The rules state that you have to have them in 60 days prior,
Okay,
which I'm sure she'll have in a month.
yeah, so as long as that's clear, is there anything else that we need refreshed every year, just that the map is still the same and?
Any changes that should be changed?
You can't change the route, right? So without recertifying it. So but we may want to, like, we still have to do the safety meetings and make sure that the county and the town and the village are all synced up. So that'll still happen.
All of that, so I kind of feel like as long as we give her the approval for the
I
weekend.
think the only other thing on that application of the permit was like just checking the box, in bandstand, and then like the number.
Yeah, so when we say like a 6 month, when's a good time to sit down with you guys and actually have you come and discuss the particulars of each year? That's far enough ahead that we have time to address issues, but
Want to do it like closer to the 60-day, at a time for insurance, I mean.
yeah, I mean, we could do,
What, like you started planning it a year ahead of time, okay? Once you got the approval from us, we kind of took a step back because you didn't need us anymore, right? When did you start meeting with, because you had meetings
yeah,
here, when did that start?
Well, we had, I went to the town in like October, and then with like Todd and Lynn in November, and then a big one with everyone and John in like July or June, and then another one.
Yeah.
You know, it was kind of like going.
I know, I just want to give you enough time. so
we just,
you're
we
not
need, so
locked
I don't
into a
want to
month, but
beat this to
here's
death
enough
here, but
time.
we just need a date where we're gonna do a check-in and say, the application for the following year is ready.
Enough time, if we said 60 days ahead, you just check in, you'll probably do it before then.
Right, well, I guess, so the meeting would be,
July.
I know, but is it nothing to do with having that a date approved? Like, what
No,
would be your-
it's not the date. It's to make sure that the insurance is
Oh.
there. You've had your safety plan meetings, the police and DPW don't have any major concerns that need addressing.
Okay.
Yeah, that's June 1st.
June, we've got our, isn't that our budget? That's a long meeting already. Oh, you're right. It is May. Okay, yeah, we'll do, so let's do this. Aim for the June meeting. That you have everything in by our June meeting. For the insurance certificate for that year, the confirmations with the safety checkoffs from the fire department and everybody. And then if we have that, that'll be our touch point every year in June.
You have the race, you have the every weekend, all the way to the end of the certification.
And Ron gets free training so he can qualify next year.
Do we need to make a motion
it-
to
yeah,
accept it for
yeah,
the next 10
yeah,
years?
that's-
Do we need the dates listed? Peggy, you have those dates in
Wait,
advance. Do we need them again?
Labor Day is a real weekend.
Just Labor Day.
Oh, okay. All right, so I will make a motion to accept the marathon's dates for this certification of the Boston Marathon, so September 24 all the way through September 33. And then that gives her the entire time that Boston is certified race.
Wait, hold on.
All right, but you have to commit to doing it 10 more times.
Ah,
Yeah.
well,
You got it, Paula.
well,
Yeah.
that-
Okay,
I'll second that motion.
all right. Any other questions, guys?
Till next year, and I'll do it.
Might as well.
Come the 8th time and be like blamed out.
It's like, why do we approve it? Now I feel obligated to do it. Keep it in the half.
It'll be a requirement.
It was the next 9 years, so through 33. Wow.
Oh, wait, well done, guys. You've heard.
I think
a
it's
lot,
through
like, great,
32, right?
Compliment, thank you, well done, great event,
That'd be 11 years.
I can't wait.
33 through 23? Am I just terrible at math?
Thank you.
Yeah,
No,
the feedback
amazing
along the
feedback.
route from people who were, partners of people were just, they loved the village canopy, so kudos. Kudos to somebody else in your family for the canopy that is being presented of trees in the village. Yes, that was really important because once they got into town of Helmsfield, they were hot.
Yeah.
Right, Ron? So, and the history.
Karen, how many actual runners?
Oh, you
did
like,
sign
you
up?
like that? Yeah.
600.
1171 registered, and 611
Is that normal to have that many people register then not come?
Yeah, they said 15 to 20%. And some people
It's like injured training or something, you know, like.
And we did start our registration early back in October, and we had like a discounted price.
Right.
So a lot of people registered super early.
Oh, and then maybe they're the ones that didn't.
Or they qualified in the race like 2 months.
So what's the Boilermaker 15,000? There's your goal.
Yeah. We need to widen these streets.
All right, we got a motion. Kelly made the motion, Ron seconded. Any other questions, guys? All right, all in favor? Aye.
You're welcome.
See ya.
Let's go outdoors.
All right, do you guys want to do Yuletide and then bounce back? Okay.
Did you want to say something?
I did, actually, like 40 days, but. That and then.
There's no rules after 8 o'clock. You're fine.
At our. Next meeting, we'll have a sketch plan conference. Person that's. Would like to buy the land next to Meadows. And it's
Oh, yeah, we,
gonna involve, maybe.
Yeah.
It's gonna involve.
it is.
Our zoning law requires that. For subdivision, you have to have access to the public roadway. That wouldn't, as is, have access to the public roadway.
So Janet, we did have this on the old business, and Gabe talked to me a couple days ago and he said that they were planning on sending a subdivision application in. Did that come in yet?
No.
Because they went back again to, Harold issuing an easement through his land.
Just a few days ago, he said the attorney advised him to do a sketch plan. At this meeting. But
Yeah.
anyway, I simply wanted to give you a heads up. I didn't know.
Yep.
If the board was aware of this.
Yeah, it's on here and we talked about it a couple times.
Okay, but then the Corey had on his report. An item on lot 16 of Madison Bears. That's another one I've had some contact with an attorney for the owner. And that attorney talked to Gertson about. And I think the assumption about the owner part is that they had an approval in 2011 and wanted to proceed. And personally, I don't think they could because that was 2011. And there's issues with stormwater, sanitary sewer, roadway. And I don't think the owner has necessarily had a. They haven't submitted an application, they haven't had any direction from the village. David Gertson's talking to their attorney. And their attorney's hoping they will agree with them. So I think that would be in the interest of the community for the village board to be informed about what's going on. And make some contact there, so it's not just in limbo between two attorneys. It's really village that decides is the 2011 approval okay or not. And there is a legal opinion involved, but still, it's like the development that started and things have changed, including 15 new homes and the DEC permits and all that. And so I think their approach is, oh, well, we'll deal with that. Oh, we'll deal with that. Well, that's why you have like to deal with all that in an organized manner. Sure. So I just think it's important for each of you to be aware of that. And that, as far as I know, I don't think anything's really happened. And yet, every now and then I hear that, oh, they were gonna build those other apartments, and oh, didn't want to do it.
You're talking about Lawler's, like the ones that would look like the creek side. Well, that was he said the approval was for the exact same footprint building, but I thought you were talking about a separate. Okay. Yeah.
That was 2011.
Yep.
Long time. Things have changed.
No, I agree. We did, I think it was mentioned at a board meeting or two ago, but you're underscoring it, so to make the board officially aware. And that,
They haven't applied yet.
they haven't applied,
But I
yes.
think the reason is they're assuming they can go ahead and they haven't been told they can't.
would we have to wait until they started to do something and then have?
I don't know, but that's not a
Stop.
good situation.
It's not, no, I agree, I just didn't know.
No, I mean, that's a question for Dave as to whether or not, I mean, if they legally, if he agrees this is somehow a, however many years this permit lasts,
Well, there's a,
I imagine
it's
there's,
in the zoning,
It
you
is.
get 1 year.
I'm not gonna speak for Dave, but I think he thinks they need a new.
okay.
But
I think they agreed that the stormwater side, because the general permit changed, that they do need to provide additional plans. to Meet the new general permit for stormwater is what I saw in some emails back and forth, and I am looking at the sewer. In fact, the capacity 2011 flows going to that pump station there, probably more to it today.
Sure.
So they did have a report, and I'm taking a look at it, to make sure it's still.
Sure.
So but that's interesting because we're spending money on this now and they have to go back through it. And I'm kind of concerned about that, right? So as far as I'm concerned, the zoning law says after a year with no progress, you've got to reapply. So, but they have not reapplied yet. The village is spending money on engineering at this point.
and maybe
And-
our attorney.
and maybe our
reviewing
attorney,
up
right.
into
Well,
there.
because of what you just said right there, if it's written down and it is law or that is the process procedure, why don't we preempt this before we talk to the
Correct.
lawyer, before we talk to BCA and say, hey, guys, we
Correct.
hear that you may be interested in doing something. Here you go.
Right, I agree, 100%.
I think it needs to come to them in writing from the village, so that we have documentation that we've sent
Right.
to them.
So who, how, what?
I think it has to come from the mayor, I
Yeah.
assume. But we need to make a resolution.
Is Corey working on this or, because Campbell's not involved, right? Not you,
No,
Corey, Corey
no,
Lawler.
He's not, in fact, he's advised them
Yeah,
to reapply.
okay.
Let's get ahead of it before we spend any more money on lawyers and.
I don't need pause, but I haven't done much.
Yeah,
Pause.
do that,
I
pause.
think we need
Thank
to
you.
tell them to reapply.
Oh, you could just
and-
tell them to pony up and pay it in advance and you can keep working on it, but yeah.
Yeah, and let's,
I'll throw together something and send it to you guys to review.
Okay.
yeah, let's do
Um,
it, not as an email, but as a.
But I just mean for you.
Right, right.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we can have Peggy send a,
Yep.
okay.
Back to you,
Good.
Mike. That was
All right.
a sharp left turn. Sorry, back up to regular program.
Okay.
Thank you, I'm sorry I didn't think of that.
All right, so no one's here for this. We already, this isn't, I'm sorry, my brain is thinking this is Halloween.
No, this is Bill time.
Yeah.
This is Christmas. They already gave us.
First weekend in December, it's a good event, nothing out of the ordinary.
This
We've
is
done-
changed from last year, though, right? Or is it the same?
Different.
So where are they doing,
Generally speaking, it's.
the thing that wasn't clear last time on the Halloweenville was
Right.
where the alcohol section was.
And they.
So
put
they're
in
saying,
there,
yes,
yeah.
it'll be served if they
If
get
they
a
it,
vendor.
It'll be in the visitor center.
Okay, so just the visitor center lawn.
No, inside.
Oh, I'm sorry,
It's too
inside.
cold.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
Is there any, have they requested, because don't we have the materials for, a couple of huts?
The chamber was supposed to,
Yeah. I was
oh,
gonna
no,
bring
it
that
was,
up.
BOCES was doing it for
Yeah,
them.
so where are we at? Do you guys happen to know?
At the last meeting, they said they have materials for free.
I think Greg was gonna.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that
Oh,
up.
yeah. Okay, good, thanks.
Sorry, Greg.
We're halfway there, so it'll only be another.
All right.
All right, any other questions on this one, guys?
We have, absolutely. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had a private event, which,
What do you do at lunch?
Yeah, I hope you say yes, because I brought some there like 4 times.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, all right. All right, events done early. This, okay, so we're gonna go to board reports. I'll start, and I apologize, guys. I thought I sent this over. It's really just 3 bullets of one thing we already discussed. The other is the sick day overtime clarification. Mickey Smith was out until Friday. He said he would give me the letter on Friday. He didn't. I forgot to follow up with him. If you want, we can vote to allow me to sign the MOU if it stipulates what we asked him to write now,
I don't-
rather than waiting for next meeting, and that would be fine. And if you, I'll kick you the MOU before I sign it in case anyone has an objection, then we can hold off.
Clarify that one piece, as long as it
Yeah,
clarifies that.
it's a very simple stipulation.
I'll make a motion that Alex can sign the MOU. As long as it comes back with the language that we asked for.
Yeah, so essentially that's holiday time counting towards time worked.
Yeah.
Which was not outlined clearly in the contract. Right, all in favor? Aye, all right. That's easy. Second one is the fuel sharing agreement. I sent that out. They're pretty minor changes. I don't know if you guys got a look at it. Greg, you saw it, right?
Yes.
And Jen both approved it. I sent it out, I think Sunday. So again, sorry for the last minute, but if you all are good with that, I think that addresses all of Jim's concerns, at least. Jen and I sat down and talked, and then Greg and I spoke, and I think that covers it. There was a few clarifications. The main one is for capital improvements. They can't like pre-commit to doing any capital improvements that we do. However, if, for example, the DEC comes out and says, oh, you need to have this big fancy upgrade to all oil tanks. At that point, we would say to them, we're gonna either split this with you, or you're gonna have to go and do it yourself and spend just as much on your own. So those will be done ad hoc for any major capital changes. But other than that, the main changes were to specify diesel.
Right.
And to specify that if there was an issue, notice was to be sent to the mayor and the superintendent both immediately, regardless of which side the issue came from. And those are the only changes.
I think it'll be a temporary arrangement because they're about to go all electric. anyway,
Yeah, they
so.
have
It'll take a while, though. They got a new bus and
They're
it's gonna
under
take 5 years, right?
the issued an initiative where they have to do it. It's
The,
2027, yeah, they got 4
I
5
think
years
they're-
where they have to have all of us.
Yeah, so
I
there'll
don't
be,
think the infrastructure, we're not gonna
For
do that
now.
conversation,
Well,
but.
yeah, their bus garage
Yeah.
won't accommodate electric buses.
No.
No,
It's
it
too
won't.
small.
Correct.
Um,
And I think that's gonna happen across a
It
lot
is.
of. different
things might
cities.
change, that number might change, but even if it's 5 years, it's still, so, okay, anyway.
I make a motion to accept the changes on the fuel, agreement.
Okay,
I'll second.
all right, all in favor? Aye, all right, and then the last thing I had was the Harbor Heights, which we jumped so that Betsy could get out of here, and that's all for me. Mark, you're up.
Okay, we've covered Mass Barracks, Heritage Area, we've covered Housing Authority, and, so the only thing is we did dog control law, which are we passing tonight, or are we passing next month?
Next.
Thank you. The only other thing is I drafted, trying to get ahead of, the subject matter of, cannabis, licensing and special permits. Based on what other villages are starting to do around the state. And so I crafted a special permit to draft, bill, so we won't discuss it tonight, but it's just a starting point, because I don't want to be behind on that, when that day comes, okay?
When do
That-
you see us passing this? Is this something? you
It's
want-
up to the village board. I mean, it's
Okay.
really up to the board. We can, I would say that the fact that I'm putting it out there means that we should try to work on that. So, because again, I don't know, I have no idea, but I've just seen so many villages start to pass these to get ready. We don't have a special permit specifically for this, and that's why village.
Yeah, the main thing that will be a question, and we can, just do
Yeah,
this
yeah.
ourselves but there are a lot of rules about what we cannot do in
Yeah.
terms of banning because we didn't opt out. So
Right,
basically, we
right.
can't write the zoning law to say you can't do it anywhere. You can do
Right,
things
right.
like say not this close to a school or not this
Yeah.
close to,
There's a lot.
but we will have to do a legal review because by not opting out 2 years ago, we limited our ability to do certain things. I don't know what they are
Right,
exactly. It's not nothing, but
And this is a special permit for a dispensary. That's another separate issue in terms of the public
Yeah,
use, right?
yeah.
So I didn't even go down that path
Okay.
because of what you just said, right? So this is just some business wants to open a dispensary, okay? Where
We
we
want to
can,
set a goal for this to be, like, I don't wanna just throw it in my folder and then not look at it again. We have a goal of to do it by the end of this calendar year?
Yeah,
We have,
that's probably a fair,
Okay,
yeah, wrap it up by December board meeting would be good. It's September,
Nice.
so. It may take a little time. I may not, again, I have watched videos of some villages talking about this, so, and actually it was pretty cut and dry with those villages too, just issuing special permits, it was not super complicated, okay.
Thank you,
All
Mark.
right, thanks.
All right, and anything else for Mark, or we move on to Ron?
only one that's not.
Okay, so you'll see my report in the folder.
As me too. Although I did get one email.
Anyway. Well, you know what, my report's not in the folder, but I don't know when it's better, you're right. Actually, no, that's not correct, you have a better. I just don't. Explain it. You don't need to.
Even though Ron told him to bring it.
Yeah,
up.
hold on, right. So we already talked about the Corey Brennan thing, I'm not gonna cover that, dog park, I know what I owe you guys next month on a big deal, real quick for this park and rec committee. Successful summer program, we have 134 total participants, that spanned across 4 weeks. So lots of good feedback from the summer rec program, something we'll do next year as well. I also got word back from the committee that all projects that were postponed by the COVID period are now complete. So they're looking forward to moving on to the next things, dog park being one of them, and then get equipment on the trails being the one after that.
Did that get ordered, I thought? The
Not
trail,
yet.
okay.
Not yet. So we're in that season now, we're probably gonna identify a couple packages, big, small, middle, and decide on what we want to do, order it, maybe get it installed next year before summertime.
Cool.
Not a lot of movement on the LDC on the north parcel of Ambulance Street. I do want to, not now, but at some point in the future, talk about what's the process as we want to get developers to take a look at the southern parcel as we want to build 12 homes, okay? I've had a couple people reach out to me, asking me how we're gonna move forward with that. So we've got to think about that and then discuss it at some point in the future.
Ron, while you just mentioned the LDC, I don't expect they'll have an issue with granting the grand tactical space. But just between the two of us, one of us has to remember to talk to Mike Hoagland about that
Okay.
once she sends that application in.
Oh, yes.
Cause I mean, that's just, we won't have anything built by then, no matter how fast we move.
No, I make a note. Yeah, I did put in your inboxes, me being the park committee, about the report for the summer gardens. Summer gardens are now closed, but another successful year back there. Okay. Any questions? That's all I have.
Sounds good. Kelly, you're up.
My report is pretty short. Executive board of the fire department did go into executive session, which I'm not able to attend those, obviously. I was not told what it was about officially. I since heard what it's about, but I'm not gonna report about it here. I'm gonna ask me about it later. Again, it's private, so I think I know. I do want to report on their fire report. They had their very first electric scooter fire.
Yeah, that was fun. That was super fun. So, would recommend
First one.
if you have a electric battery in your vehicle,
They
don't
can get
beat the hell out of it for 8 years.
So I
Yeah,
don't know if you know, like in bigger cities, there's a lot of, Uber people that use it and there's fires everywhere and they're very dangerous. So they were like, oh, we had our first scooter fire, so we know what to do with it, but it was.
yeah. Graydon was teasing one of the younger kids, asked me how to spell my name, and he's like, "What the hell, man?"
So
They
they
were-
only had one fire this month and it was a scooter fire. They had 5 MBAs, 22 EMS calls, which they are still having some issues with gilt oil, and I'm not gonna get into a lot of that, but that is continuing to happen. They had 2 boat calls in the month of August. It must have been the beginning of August because the boat is still on commission for right now. They did receive, which I was Karen was still here, they gave them a huge donation to the fire department and the ambulance. I think they gave them $3,000 to the fire department.
Wow.
And $1,700 went specifically to the ambulance. So overall, they gave them $4,700 on the marathon. That's amazing. So I just wanted to put that out there that they gave back to the community and they gave it to them, not to mention our businesses. They do. I also want to follow up on the roof leak. I think I mentioned at the last meeting. The DPW crew did go up and seal the leak that was over their fire gear, but we have since found another leak that is dripping on top of the utility truck, which is now damaging the truck.
Oh, good.
So I did talk to Lynn. He's gonna go back up there and see, but I know I mentioned at the last meeting, but we really need to talk about looking at perhaps, I mean, I don't know when we put a roof on this building. 1998 or some, like, it's been a long time, so we need to look at it.
Yeah.
We talk about maintaining all the other buildings in our village, we need to maintain the building that we're in too. So we should probably take a look at that. And that's, oh, I do have two questions that I should have asked Alex, I'm sorry. You already answered the question about the Teamster MOU, so we're good with that. I just want to put it on everyone's radar. We've talked about it and then we don't talk about it. We really need to put a dock plan in place. The docks are getting ready to be done. I don't think we should wait until spring.
I'm glad you brought it up. I was
Yeah.
gonna bring it up next time.
We
Thank you.
need a dock plan. I like the dock plan. The goal of it to be the end of December. Like, we need something in place.
So you're gonna take like
I
a couple
think-
minutes to talk about it real
Yeah,
quick?
yeah. we
So we're
need to
almost done here.
Talk about it.
What, we used to have a harbor master, we haven't for a while. I mean, is that a position we want to reinstate? Is that something we want to tack on to somebody else's responsibilities?
Like having a local business do it, I think there's a conflict of interest. So I think
I was looking at John, but
I know, we were
Okay.
doing stuff with two trustees and.
yeah, I think we need to,
people.
have a conversation, come
Get at
together with a plan. I think I mean, yes, it's gonna default to John, but we don't always have someone here. So if we were to, I don't know, deputize somebody that could do it in his absence, those are all questions that we need to talk about it. Not only the dock plan, I feel very strongly, and every single resident I've talked to feels the same way, that those docks should not be free. Residents should not be paying for visitors' water and sewer while they're here. We need to charge them something. I don't want to make money on it, but our residents should not be footing the bill for people to come and dock their boats here. So they feel very strongly about that. I just think we need to iron out those details, and I think we need to do it sooner rather than later.
yeah, for the charging, I think where we landed last year was to monitor the usage of the power and the water and the sewer and see if it was higher than the cost to install meters. Because it doesn't make sense to spend 10 grand to put a credit card reader in to charge people, like the same reason here, we're not gonna spend 10 grand on a nickel to quarter upgrade.
Charge a daily rate, we do that in Clayton. They have a daily rate, they have an hourly rate.
But again, that is only, well, the grant money was for public docks, so we may have to look at that as to whether or not we can charge for use at all, or just for the additional services. When we talked about it last, the idea was that day use would be free, but utilities might be charged if we decide while looking at the amount used, that it makes sense to put in an individual meter. If it's costing, $200 a summer for the water use, then it's different than if it's costing 20 grand, then it'd be worth investing in a meter.
But I don't know if the board's ever voted on something. We talk a lot about things, but I don't know if we actually specifically say, this is what we decided on. So, yeah, I think I've heard that before, but I don't know.
Yeah, the plan is,
This is the hereditary committee. meeting,
Right,
and,
right.
I mean, there's a lot, and talk to Craig about it, there's a whole lot of issues. I mean,
Yeah.
beyond, and we talked about it from it as a park, but there's a lot of things going on down there. And I think small work group.
I think we need a plan that
Yeah,
spells
and I
everything out, and I don't want it to.
It's just
Part-
try to
yeah.
try to act it up here.
Yep.
No,
There's so many
yeah.
issues that really need to work.
The main thing was the decision was made in that we decided to go forward with the plan. So the physical infrastructure is being put in without the ability to individually charge people. And so we decided rather than add a bunch of cost to a project that was already higher, we'd go with it as is and keep an eye on it to maybe add charging later.
I didn't
that-
understand.
so-
I thought we just decided not to put meters in, but I didn't take that to mean that we weren't gonna charge people. I thought that mean we weren't gonna put meters in because it wasn't part of the original spec. to me, that doesn't negate the fact that we can charge somebody for using water and sewer. Residents have been very strongly telling me that they do not want to pay for people who come and, I don't know, are we gonna let them stay for one night? Can they stay for a week? If they stay for a week, we're talking.
No, it was
sewer
day
and
use
water.
only, right? So
We have
that's
to
like,
Spell that out. We need
yeah.
signs and we need somebody to enforce it.
So,
and-
and that's why the heritage area, because remember physically, the visitor center is sort of above and looks down over the docks. And there's kind of a thought process here that the visitor center could be that business,
They're not Open all
could
the
be-
time though.
well,
That
they're
might-
not.
in the
Yeah,
evening is when it matters, right?
that, right,
Unfortunately.
exactly. Number one. Number two, we talk about this stuff prior to budget season. So if we determine, if a group determines after looking at all of the issues that we in fact need to increase certain budgets here or there in order to do the best job we could do to govern Market Square Park, then let's do it that way. Let's not just throw a little system in here and then, that didn't work so well this year, change the system again. We have the chance to really make that entire part of West Main, the village office is here, the clerk and deputy clerk and treasurer do the admin stuff, but in terms of eyes on the entire Market Square Park, that includes, of course, renting the facilities, renting, the bandstand. This is an opportunity to look at it, to discuss it in a group, to talk about it, but not at a village board meeting. So I'm just encouraging that we think about it a little bit more globally than just a dock system, that's all I'm saying. We've got to consider the private interests that are already out there, and I'm not one to wanting to do a lot of competition with private, if we're offering, I should say, if private business is already offering a service, I don't really want to compete as a government.
I don't want to
private
compete
service.
with them either, but we do owe it to our residents to not have it cost them money.
Right, no, and that's fine, so it's a good principle, so if we decide something, we would design.
I mean,
based on
yeah.
cost recovery only.
Right.
And nothing
So-
else. right?
So moving forward,
In
because
reality,
we're not,
in reality, if you pick them off the village docks, chances are they're just gonna go tie up on Horse Island. Because Connie already told me that park police and the state police have no intention of responding to complaints out there. So there's gonna be a
Well,
whole docking system out there.
Yeah,
which
but
is
then
gonna
how
be-
are they gonna get
which
to
is
the
gonna be your
mainland?
next- Which is gonna be your next headache.
Are they
I mean,
gonna,
it's not your problem with park police.
I mean, they're gonna swim to shore or?
You know what I'm just saying, people that tie up and stay on their boats there,
Right.
and then if we're talking about making them not stay there overnight. But just so you have that in the back of your mind, there's gonna be a whole
that's
system
not
of
our
docks
problem,
out
it's the
there.
state's problem.
Right, which Connie's saying the state told her that they're not gonna, so that's another thing to keep in the back of your mind.
Those docks aren't plumbed and whatnot, though. They're just, so it's the same as anchoring or mooring, and it's not the most protected.
Great talking, I'm just saying we need a system in place to accommodate, like, we just need a plan, that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I agree with you that we need that plan before budget time, because it absolutely is going to impact a budget, I don't know which one, I can foresee DPW taking on, they're gonna have extra work, maybe they take on a lot of cleaning.
That was on my, yeah.
We need to start talking about it, so that we have it in place before we start budget time, which is what, February?
Yeah.
So we need something in place
TikTok.
before then.
Yeah.
So what do we want it to look like? How do we want it to move forward? Cause if we wait till October, we're one less month, I'm just gonna push it.
I would recommend, you got staff involved in every aspect. You got visitor center staff, heritage area staff with the park, you got Lynn, you got John. Village clerk, we could work on, just hash out these issues and then make recommendations.
That works for me. One less meeting.
I'd be willing to, as I'm the heritage area person, I'd be willing to, participate
Bring in,
in that.
you know,
I lived through the first dock.
Yeah, I mean,
20 years ago, so
I think like, one thing I want to be careful of is we've got a lot of people saying, them being closed all season was bad for the village. And them being, and I've just said, hey, look, if you're gonna remodel something, this is how it happens. And, we're sacrificing 4 spots now for 20 spots for the next 20 years or however long.
Yep.
Let's hope those floating docks last that long. But I do want to make sure we're careful to not minimize the impact that they
I
have
think
on
it's
the,
gonna be amazing. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna draw so many people next year, and I think that's great.
and to some extent,
I just
all
wanna make sure
amenities,
that
like,
We have a plan in place to accommodate it, that's all.
yeah, like we have free parking, right? That's something that our village residents pay, and that's something that people who visit take advantage of. There's all of the amenities in the village, people get some value out of it. Not everyone's gonna use the dog park, and not everyone uses the trail, and not everyone will use the docks, but
Yeah.
I don't think we need to get too nitpicky about it unless the cost is high. So that's my only concern is like, if it's $2,000 of water and sewer cost over an entire year, we got 50,000 gallons a day disappearing. That's, what does that cost versus bothering to put in the meters? It may cost more to try and enforce it. So that's just something to consider. But, yeah, I mean, either way, we do need to put somebody on it. So,
So it sounds like I heard Mark say that he's gonna work with the Heritage Area Committee, it sounds like.
And
Danny
the
was gonna help
entire,
with that.
our village,
Make sure
employees,
that Lynn's
right?
involved
Yeah.
with that, okay.
It's
So
mostly,
actually, as an option, it's okay if we do nothing the first year and kind of let stuff.
That's,
figure
but
and settle
I think we need
in
a
and,
management
you know.
plan for at least now. Like,
yeah, I agree. We at
management.
least need some idea of
Otherwise,
who's
it's
gonna,
just a free-for-all.
who's gonna be like the harbor master,
Right.
whether in name only or not for next season, but
Like, online, you can make a reservation ahead of time.
Yeah, there's an app.
Yes, and I would like to look into that because, that might be something that we would want to use, people that are traveling from out of, there's some way that they can come in and say, I want this docket from this day to this day. That might be something that we can.
Within the boating community, I mean, it was quick.
Yeah.
We're already talking about Sackets, I wanna come, can I come? type
Right,
stuff
I think
there.
it would be very good to get on the app and have people sign up and make a reservation ahead of time. That's just my thinking. Maybe leave one or two open that's not a reservation for those people that are just showing up, but I think. Just a thought.
yeah, we're definitely, I mean, we're gonna have to improvise as time goes on because we're not gonna think of every issue ahead of time. But I think this season, if we end up having any seasonal use, it'll be late enough in the season that it'll be a few guys in fishing. I don't think we need to have something in place this winter, but I agree.
no,
Next spring, we at least want some rules posted and some idea of who is the person to say, hey, you can't do whatever it is you're doing at the dock if they're not following the posted rules, because right now we don't have anybody who would fit that role, really. Kelly, is that all you got? All right, any other questions for Kelly, guys?
Short, Kelly.
I'm sorry, just ask a question. I just thought I want to put it on your radar.
All right, Mr. Townsend.
Yes, just the one item, the vendor huts, in the spring, I don't remember the exact amount, but it was, a few $1,000s we gave to the chamber to purchase material for, vendor huts that would be, used for multiple events throughout the year. With the idea that we would own and store and maintain those. And initially, we were told that BOCES was gonna be building those, which gave me some level of comfort because you've got the expertise, you've got some quality control there. But apparently now the chamber is gonna be building them with volunteers, and so
that changed?
that causes me a little concern.
Tell us.
Right,
Okay.
I
This
was
is
at the
the,
last meeting, and so, I said I would put that in my report and bring it up to you guys. And this is something that I think they envision, each year asking for more money and
adding huts.
adding huts
Yeah.
to the point where, we got this little, German village on Main Street. But, it's a concern of mine. I don't know if you guys feel the same or
We have
not.
to-
Well, I mean,
Are we gonna pay?
yeah, I mean, I just don't. I mean-
We just pay for
So
the
let's
materials,
play it
but,
out, sure.
but if they fall apart, then we're out.
No, I thought we were maybe both too.
No, BOCES,
No, we
BOCES,
gave them the money for the.
Do we know
materials
what
that we're supposed
happened,
to
though?
pay BOCES, so that's.
No, no. They weren't supposed to pay, but we weren't supposed to pay BOCES. I believe they had originally had, BOCES said they could do it for free.
Okay.
Right.
And
But-
now,
Pay for the material.
yes,
Gotcha,
but,
gotcha.
the issue is, we're, you know, if, I don't know, Dave, maybe Dave's great, I don't know. Dave-
I don't-
But do we have
I
any
don't
idea
At
of,
all.
yeah,
Maybe we're too late.
yeah,
I
I
don't
don't
know.
know. All right, yeah, I mean, I guess we should talk to them and just ask if they, you know,
It just concerns.
can
me
they do
that-
one and like have us kick the tires a bit before they build all three?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I kind of feel like we approved I mean, not to be a stickler, I want them to have the huts, that was the original intent. But we approved giving them the money for the materials under a certain set of conditions.
Right.
And those set of conditions are no longer there, and we already gave them the money, so I'm assuming they already went out and bought the materials.
Give them money, they bought it at Cody Green, I paid.
Yeah, yeah.
It's all paid.
yeah, so, so the issue,
Spent money on it.
yeah, and the issue is like, you know, BOCES is out, they're not in charge of BOCES, so it may not be something that they was in their control. That said, I do think it'd be smart of us to, you know, make sure that Dave can make these to some level of,
I just, they changed the plan, and, I mean, I know they told you at the meeting, but had you not been at the meeting, would they have reached out to it? That's my question.
No, I don't think so.
Right, that's what I kind
Yeah.
of,
I mean, I think it was just
you happen to be there, so you got to
happened to be
know.
there and,
Yeah.
and, you know, the wheels started spinning because we hadn't talked about this in months. And I said, wait a minute, I don't recall that
Yeah.
being the plan, so.
Well, we're gonna know soon because they wanna use them for
Halloween Ville's the first,
I thought so.
right,
That was coming up.
so that's soon.
Now, so the other side of the coin is Halloween Fest is coming and roll it out and let's see what you do with it. And if maybe they're gonna come out great.
Right.
And if they do, we have one less problem to worry about because I heard about 100 of them that we're dealing with right now. So while I think it's really important, and I think maybe we give this as Mr. Parker the benefit of the doubt, I'm sure somebody reached out and we'll see.
Yeah, I could say that, and then if they ask for more money in the future.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, we can see.
Right.
I mean,
I just wanted you guys to be aware of that.
Thank you.
Because it wasn't what.
Yeah.
You know, we were presented with originally, and so, yeah, we'll see how they turn out. That's all I have.
at the library meeting, do they, how's the roof? Are they scheduled for that? Did that get done this year?
It did get done.
Oh, it's done.
Yeah.
Great, cool. It might have come up at a previous meeting. I just,
The roof.
Yeah,
Yeah, they did that.
yeah,
Great.
roof's done,
I-
the covered walkway is still in the conceptual stage.
I forgot to mention, sorry, our defibrillators came in.
Hey,
oh, nice. That's small.
Yes, I was expecting it to be bigger. Where the cases are, they were shipped today. So we should have one for the visitor center, the library, one for here and the DPW. So once we have the cases, they should be.
Are these going inside those buildings? Or I was didn't know if the cases were like outdoor rated of like, you know, break glass. Kelly, do you know if the cases are like, are they outdoor rated or are they meant to be in the buildings?
They're meant to be.
Like for the visitor center, for example, it could go on the porch or something
Nope,
under
we
the,
decided everything was going inside
Okay.
because we did not buy anything with a lock. We didn't talk about
Okay.
that.
okay.
So it's inside. We do need signage though, something outside to say defibrillator in building, which I don't think we've done that. Just so that people, if there is a need, they know where to run to get it.
If it's open.
They're very self-explanatory. They tell you exactly what to do. It talks you through it. It does.
Call you by your first name.
Just open it. I like-
Yeah, no, here's me.
Hey, guys.
Literally tells you what to do. It tells,
all clothing from patient's
it'll walk you right through it.
Medals.
It'll tell you exactly what to do. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But Nick Gracie will do some training. I obviously didn't have a schedule because we were took so long to get here. I wanted them in June and we just got them. Yeah, so,
How long?
honestly, maybe sometime this fall before the busy, or unless you guys wanna wait till spring when you might have a bigger opportunity to use it, although you guys have events in the winter too, so, I don't know.
Nice, getting raincoats for anybody for here.
The hard part, this one's in here, this one will be in this room.
But if Max or anybody's in the fire department, everybody knows that, you know.
Don't tell, I know, I think I know the folks, I'm not saying.
All right,
But anyways, they're here, the cases are coming, so. I forgot to
Great.
mention it.
all right. For update policies, we had some clarification on that. Did you?
10:18, where it talks about the Board of Ethics. Peggy and I, this is my fault, we were supposed to have fixed this when we approved this entire document last month. And it must have slipped my mind. So there's one paragraph in there that had some blank spots. So Peggy and I worked together to clarify the language. I have it on my computer. You have it in the unfinished way, so I'm just, if you don't mind, I'll just read it to you. And if you guys approve it and think it's okay, then we can vote to make the amendment. The document is approved, we just need to.
So
amend
we're
it.
just filling in the bracket
Yes.
blanks. Okay.
So it says, there is hereby established a Board of Ethics for the municipality. The Board of Ethics shall consist of 5 members, a majority of whom shall not be officers or employees of the municipality, but at least one of whom must be a municipal officer or an employee. To clarify that, if the Board of Ethics complaint is against a board member, the person would be from the office. The representative would be from the office. If it was the ethics complaint was against an office personnel, someone from the board would sit on it. The members of such Board of Ethics shall be appointed by either the village clerk or the mayor, and will serve at the pleasure of the appointing authority and receive no salary or compensation for their services, members of the Board of Ethics. We didn't name people because, as Peggy was saying, you might have 5 people with this Board of Ethics change, and maybe the next time it's about one of,
So it's a rolling
it
group.
would be like a different group each time, depending on who the complaint is against. You know, we all have friends and people in the village and we're all pretty closely related at times. We want to make sure that whoever we put on there, that it's an unbiased group of people that could sit on that. So I'm making a recommendation that we change the language to 5 members. And then the other piece is that the members would be appointed by either the village clerk or the mayor.
So could we put appointed as needed? Or because if they're not going to be a standing board, then,
Yeah.
okay.
Appointed as needed by either the village clerk or the mayor. So I
Yep.
made that change.
Okay.
Is there anything else that we think we need to change? Peggy, does that work for you?
It does.
Okay.
Wait, there's one more. Oh, it's just the name. Okay. I just saw more brackets at the bottom of the other
I
paragraph.
just made that change, Peggy, so I will email these back to you. We just don't follow it. So I'll make a motion to make the amendment to section 18 with the changes that we just looked at.
I'll second. Any other questions, guys?
Does that mean we can put this to bed?
Yes.
All in favor? Aye. All right. Is that the only one that was on there for, it said policies? Okay. Diesel agreement, we already did. Easement we talked about with Gabe Nugent. That's, and just to catch you guys up, he's the backside of Funny Side is like kind of the exact same size as Funny Side. And then if you look at the parcel map, it kind of bow ties to like a woodland section that's isolated from all roads. Originally, we were talking about connecting it through the military cemetery, which is Ogden Lane. It is technically village property and is a village road to the water tower on the map, but isn't a CHIPS road. And when we talked about it, I think we all kind of agreed, hey, if Harold can just grant the easement through the property and he's the one selling it, that'd be the easiest. Janet's concern, oh, you're here still, was that wouldn't necessarily be compliant with our zoning requirements because it's not a public road. And even though he's not planning on developing it now, it may become an issue in the future. I don't know. I think I wanted to look into it a little bit because I know my brother just subdivided to build a house and he's not on a public road. And so, and we have a lot from a long time ago that aren't. Where there's an easement of access, my neighbors had easement across my driveway to get to their lot, for example. So I don't know if that's a change in the subdivision law or it's just something that's been overlooked in the past. But what I told Gabe called me and he's talked to Janet a few times. And I said, I think you're close enough that you should just put in an application for what you want to do. And then we can justify sending it over to legal to review, because right now it's just, conversations. We don't have anything formal for the lawyers to review. So I think it sounds like that's about where they are. They're going to send something over.
I think some of what you think was in property that exceeded our subdivision law.
Okay.
You know.
Yep.
And another factor is, I think where the easement Harold is talking about would be on our existing trail. And it seems counter to our trail efforts to take the trail and then have it become a place where somebody can drive their vehicle when they want to go to the land, but we don't allow for right there. That was kind of mixed message to the public.
Sure.
Like we gave, so I think there's a number of issues to talk about besides just what the zoning.
Yeah.
But our attorney has advised that you have to have, if you're making a subdivision, it has to have access to the public street for fire safety, those sort of concerns that the zoning deals with. And an easement of 12 feet doesn't do that. But not
Understood. Yeah. But I don't think we need anything. We don't need to do anything in the short term. We're waiting for them to actually put in a application, and then it'll end up going to review. And then BCA contract update. Ron already talked to that. Did we have anything else on that we wanted to discuss? Right. See, when we go out of order, I don't think we did we? You guys were gonna hold off until the end of the construction season?
So we don't need to do anything to change.
Well, there was an amendment, you can sign that reduced it. And then we'll look at it again to see, if anything needs to be added back, or we can have that savings.
Would we need a motion to accept the change? Do you need that from us?
I would, yeah, I think you would have, there's a signature on that.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize that we were.
So I'll make a motion to accept the change on the BCA.
So this is a budget increase of 40. And was that the,
To be
70,
reevaluated at the end.
Yeah.
it's 70,
75, yeah.
76, total amendment.
right, but I thought we had discussed doing it in chunks, or when you guys were speaking earlier, I thought we had a lower number.
Right, so the inspection was cut down to 40.
Okay,
The 3 months off. And then there were the other services there, so the entire amendments were 76.
I see. So the number wasn't originally 70, it was like 100. Okay, I see. Sorry.
We got from one side down to 70.
Okay.
Right, so then my resolution still stands.
Right, sorry. I just wanted to make sure that we were looking at the right thing. After 8 o'clock, things get a little, all right.
So we need a second and vote.
So the wording is on
We
the
need to vote to accept the change,
amendment number 3.
amendment number 3 on the BCA contract.
And Ron, you,
And Ron seconded it.
okay. All right, and I don't think you need a roll call for this, right? Or do you, Peggy? Okay, all right, any other discussion, guys? All right, all in favor? Aye, all right. And bank report, this is an easy one. More of the same. We're selling a lot of water to the town. 11 million through and only 5 through the wastewater, so we're in good shape.
Yeah, I got a piece of good news, for you guys, just before you go to
Sure.
public comment. Got an email from a person named Monica, Bud, Budde. Anybody, Zach's, okay.
she doesn't live here. They're hoping to come and purchase a home here. Well, why? Because they read the meeting minutes from last month about Robinson's Hill, maybe. No, I've spared you the rest of it, but the last paragraph is the reason I'm writing is to say thank you. Because Lawrence and Eleanor Robinson were my grandparents. And they're going to relocate here to Sacramento Harbor. There you go. Little piece of good news.
That's
for you
cool.
tonight, eh?
So we already did public comment. If anybody's got anything they held and they want to do again, I'd hate to make somebody sit through this whole thing and then realize they lost their chance. So I'll do one more just in case. But feel free to not public comment if you want to go home. Anybody?
I don't think I have to say anything.
All right.
He cannot wear that. That's.
How she does it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, do you wanna make a motion to ban
Yeah.
race paraphernalia from? All right,
Absolutely.
I guess we're good.
No bling.
Anybody want to,
A second.
all in favor? Aye. Corey, I'd sign this just so I don't forget to do it later. That's-
Thanks for working with us, by the way.
Sorry, the our fancy tech didn't work out.
Oh.
How you guys doing?